All right, what's up, guys? We are live for our conference championship round special. We are without Aggie today as he had some oral surgery on his mouth. Had to get his wisdom teeth taken out, so he's I think that was like 2 days ago. So he's still suffering a little bit from that, but might be in the comments sharing a little bit of his opinions. But he will not get a chance to defend his picks or any of his views on these. So we're glad to have you guys if you're listening on Facebook or on YouTube. And also be sure to follow us on Instagram as well. First thing that we're going to kind of jump into before we get into our picks and talk about the games is some of the looming injuries. And the first one, obviously, to talk about is the Mahomes one. So he was cleared to play. Whether he had a concussion or not, it was never really released. But he
hmm
did clear through the protocol. Whether you like it or not, and whether you believe that he should be playing or not, he will be playing today. So what do you guys make of that? I know he's still dealing with the toe injury. He said they think it's turf toe, is what I heard. But what are you guys thinking that will have with the still dealing with the toe injury?
Yeah, I
It
said it
sounds
on
like they think
Tuesday,
it's
but I think
turf
the
toe,
toe
is what I
injury is going
heard.
to have way more to do with the game than the head injury. A lot of what I'm seeing, and again, they didn't officially come out and say that it was concussion or not. They did say he was in the protocol, but they didn't officially say that it was like the brain that was actually affected. A lot of the doctors that you kind of look at on Twitter that really deal with this stuff were saying that they think what happened is he actually took a shot to the neck which affected a nerve and caused them to kind of have that that kind of that vasovagal type of response. So it's kind of like if you go to the doctor and somebody who doesn't like blood, they see a needle, they get kind of woozy. It's the same type of thing. And they said that
Squeamish.
that kind of yeah that happened when he got hit. That nerve got affected. So for me personally, if that's what it was, and a lot of these guys are pretty legit. I mean, like they see an injury on TV and they pretty much have it diagnosed as to what it is before they come out with it. If that's what it is, I don't see that being a problem. I do see the turf toe being the bigger issue. So if he doesn't have the mobility that he needs to have to kind of drop way far back a lot of times or make some plays, he'll be limited a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's going to make this big, huge difference where the Chiefs can't be the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like you said, you had alluded to that on our show on Tuesday about the toe injury being a bigger deal. The only thing with the concussion is if mentally he's a little gun shy or a little bit scared. Scared is the wrong word, but tentative, whatever in the pocket, looking at the rush a little more because I just had a concussion. If I take another shot to the head back to back weeks, we all know how well documented the concussion stuff business has been talked about in the last 5 years or so, and so if he's thinking about it too much and he's thinking about that from a mental aspect, obviously the concussion itself isn't going to limit anything he does physically, so that'll be fine. The only thing I'm worried about is mentally, so I don't expect that to be the case. So I go back to the toe injury. I watched a little clip they had of him in practice and it looked like he was running pretty good. It was just a straight line run, so I thought it was good. But then I'm hearing, from Schefter on the ESPN pregame earlier that their only concern is the toe injury, and that they are somewhat concerned because they did such limited stuff in practice with him. They didn't really do any sort of scrambling or running around. He just basically did light stuff from the pocket. That they really don't know what the toe injury is going to be like. So that has me concerned because I felt like he was legitimately affected after the toe injury happened in the Browns game last week. I felt like he looked a little bit different, significantly different after that in the couple drives he had before the head injury where he went out. So if that continues, um, then I am concerned that he can't be his full self. And if he can't be his full self against a team that's clearly talented enough and good enough to go in there and beat them, then it could definitely be a factor and could be the difference.
Yeah, so on the other side of the ball, very minor injury. Gabriel Davis is unsure if he's going to go. He's a pretty solid rookie. He's like probably the third receiving option for them. They said that Kenny Stills actually was activated from the practice squad. So if Gabriel Davis can't go, Kenny Stills is going to be the one that will take his place, which could be interesting. I know he hasn't had a lot of time with them working with their offense, but he is a solid receiver from Houston that came over and I mean, so we'll see if that has anything to do with the injuries. But something that else that I wanted to note about the injuries is that for Kansas City, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is playing and Le'Veon Bell is out. But we'll see what their run game looks like. I'm interested to know how he's going to come back from the high ankle sprain or whatever he had. that injury about 6 or 7 weeks ago. But Le'Veon
Is
Bell, I guess,
Bell
will
a
be.
healthy stretch?
I don't know. They just said
No, he's
on.
hurt. I
Okay.
heard that he
Okay.
was hurt. He
Okay.
had a
Yeah.
knee.
So
He caught a knee thing in their last game in the
okay.
game.
So
Okay,
they
that's
have.
what I was
So they
wondering.
have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But honestly, I don't think it makes much of a difference because they ran the ball pretty well with, I think, Damian Williams, who kind of came out of nowhere when everybody thought Lev Bell was going to be the bell cow.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that kind of, I take that as like they really don't value Lev Bell, like you've kind of said in the past, Trav. They probably really just picked him up as an insurance, so nobody else got him. And it kind of tells you a lot about Le'Veon Bell, what they think of him, and kind of maybe what he has left because they see him in practice,
Mm-hmm.
and they see what he can. Going into that game, it's the second game of the two, but we're going to talk about it first. I mean, I've kind of gone back and forth a little bit on which way I think the game's going to go. And the thing that kind of worries me, and we'll get to our picks later, but the thing that worries me the most for the Chiefs is one really good hit. If he did have a concussion, or even if he didn't, if he had a little bit of banged up, one really good hit could put him right back in a situation where they're going to Chad Henne. Then obviously we've talked about the toe injury. We just don't know. We saw a little bit of it against the Browns with the toe and how it was affecting him, but we don't know the full extent of it until we see him in a full game. And kind of like you said, Dan, with his mobility, that's a big part of his game, is being able to kind of buy a little bit of time in the pocket and find that open receiver. So it'd be interesting for me to kind of see if if the concussion stuff, if one big hit maybe puts him right back in there, or if the toe ends up being.
Yeah, I think I'm going into the game thinking, Mahomes is going to be healthy. The toe is going to be not too much of an issue, and the head injury won't play a factor. So thinking of it from that angle of expecting him to play the whole game and play like pretty close to his normal self, I'm thinking kind of going back to their Week 6 matchup. So it's interesting that both of these championship games are Week 6 rematches. It's just kind of coincidental that they both.
Oh wow.
Both of these are rematches from the same week, for whatever that's worth. But you look at that game and it was really different. We all talk about Andy Reid and how much he hates to run the ball. They ran the ball for 245 yards, I think it was, against the Bills on that. It was a rescheduled Monday night game. It was supposed to be a Week 5, I think the Week 5 Thursday game that ended up COVID pushing it to Monday night the next week. But anyway, they ran the ball down their throats essentially because I guess Buffalo kind of played back in the shell, and they just basically took what they gave them and ran the ball. When have you seen the Chiefs in the Mahomes era run the ball anywhere close to that? You just don't see that. So for them to do that, the Bills basically to say, we're not going to let Mahomes beat us. We're going to dare him to run it. And then they run it. They put up 26 points, which doesn't look like a lot, but they controlled the time of possession. Josh Allen didn't get the ball very much, and when he did, he didn't play very well. So I'm kind of looking at it and thinking, okay, it's interesting. Are the Bills going to play the same defense? And if they do, will the Chiefs say, okay, we'll play it the same way and expect to run it for that much? But can the Bills play the same defense? Because from what I've heard is the Bills plan to play a similar style of defense. I think it was Taron Johnson or one of their DBs had a quote to a reporter that said they are planning to play a similar style defense, but they are going to be more cognizant that Kansas City might run the ball. I guess that leads me to believe the first time that these two teams played, maybe they thought if we sit back, they'll get impatient and throw into defenses that are good throwing defenses, and we'll benefit from it, and didn't expect maybe Kansas City to play it so patient. So maybe they'll expect now play the same defense, but be ready to stop the run out of that defense, and I guess see where it goes from there. So it's interesting to me. It will be interesting to see what do the Bills do? Do they adjust? Do they play it similar? And then what do the Chiefs do? Do the Chiefs say, hey, we're comfortable running it and keeping the ball out of Mahomes' hand in the biggest game of the year? And do the Bills want that again and take their chances? And then also, will the Chiefs maybe be more comfortable with doing that given the injury status? Will they say, hey, we wouldn't mind playing this type of game when typically we wouldn't be, because this way at least he stays healthy for when we do need him to make the throws? And will the Bills last minute maybe change their defense thinking, well, if he looks banged up, maybe we're okay with pressuring him more and making him get out of the pocket? So a lot of questions, and it would be interesting just to me on that side of the ball. To me is the most interesting side. What are the Bills going to do with Mahomes? The other side of the ball, I don't think is I think it's a little more predictable as to what might happen, but I'm waiting to see that.
For me, when we talk about this game, we always talk about like limiting the Chiefs' possessions. And the one thing the Bills have not shown that they do well is run the ball or possess the ball. When they score, and we've seen this in the playoffs, particularly when they score, it seems like they score pretty quick. They have 6-7 play drives, big chunk plays. So my question for the game, the thing I want to see answered is, are the Chiefs I think the Chiefs are at least going to score 28 points or greater. That would be my prediction. I think it's at least that many points so the Bills have to score at least that much and try to hold down the number of possessions. But with the style of offense that they play, that just doesn't seem likely. Like
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
because the
that's
Bills haven't run the ball in a couple of weeks. They just basically against Baltimore, they totally abandoned. So how are you going to limit? And they didn't have the highest completion percentage in that game either, in either of the last two games. So how are you going to limit possessions if you can't run the ball at all and you can't have
right.
high percentage passing game?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like if they somehow find a running game or somehow and the Bills offense isn't like one of those high efficiency offenses where it's like
Yeah,
first down they get 5, second down they might run for 3 and then they convert a third down. They're like 20 yards a pass and then make maybe one or two plays that don't really make it, but then they have another 20-yard pass to like Diggs. So
yep.
I'm concerned for the Bills today being able to limit Mahomes' possessions. If he gets a lot of possessions, this game could actually be kind of like a little bit embarrassing in
If
my opinion
yeah,
for
if
the
they
Chiefs.
Yeah,
If
and
Mahomes is
one of
back
the reasons
healthy.
I agree for that exact point, Dan, on offense is why I was saying that side of the ball is a little more predictable to me. Not to say that I don't think the Bills are going to score points, but I think it's a fair it's fair to say that they're gonna, to me, a range of where they're gonna score and how much success they're gonna have is pretty predictable, as opposed to the other side of the ball, which usually that side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball for the Chiefs will be more predictable. But given the
Right.
injuries and given the style of how it played last time, where they had to run the ball more, I think it's with this matchup, I think it's a little less predictable. But that, to your point of them having that style of offense, which isn't a high percentage passing game, it's more of a chunk play passing game.
Yeah.
They don't have a running game right now, pretty much in recent weeks, and they really weren't built on a running game most of the year anyway. It doesn't lend itself to playing the Chiefs and beating the Chiefs with what you need to do on offense. So that's why I'm not as high on the Bills in this game, I think, as maybe some other people, even though they're a really good team.
I think if the Bills try to win a shootout, I think we all agree and believe that they probably will not win that game. Just because, like you said, they're not as efficient as the Chiefs are. And for me, I don't know. I feel like I've had this feeling, and like I said, we'll get to our picks later. But I've had this weird feeling that the Bills have had a couple of not as impressive games the last two after looking really really sharp to end the season. Even in that game that they really only played their starters for half of the game, they looked really good. But I have this feeling that the Bills are going to come out to play and that they're actually going to probably shock some people, because a lot of what I've been reading in the media and hearing is that everybody's just like, okay, Chiefs, if Mahomes plays, they're winning. If Mahomes plays, they're going to win the game, bottom line. But I think the Bills are actually going to put a really good performance out, and maybe they do find that running game. But I think the worst thing they can try to do is to outduel the Chiefs. So I think they're going to have to lean maybe on the running game, and maybe it'll be more possible, design runs for Josh Allen like we saw in that game against the Colts when it was not very successful. But maybe it'll be more successful against a less stout defense, because I kind of feel like the Colts defense will be better than the Chiefs, even though the Chiefs do have an improved defense.
Right.
Yeah, to your point about that, Juddy, I agree with you. The Bills have not been impressive to me in the playoffs, as impressive as they were in the regular season,
Right.
Against the Colts, and definitely not against the Ravens. And I know those are two good opponents, but still, they didn't, especially offensively against the Ravens, they just didn't look good.
Their defense looked really good against the Ravens, though.
Yeah, they're going to have to play better. And so, does it mean just because they had two bad playoff performances that they're not going to play up to their potential in this one? No, it doesn't mean that. But given how they looked, and I don't think they're just all of a sudden going to find a running game. And I think just that style of offense that they play doesn't lend itself to beating the Chiefs. Now, if they come out and play the type of defense that they play where they do force them to run the ball, they keep it out of Mahomes' hands, but then they're able to stop the run, now it's a different story. So, but their defense hasn't been that good all year. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just coming out thinking, and I don't think that nobody, you're making it kind of sound like everyone's.
A lot of the stuff that I watched, a lot of the analysis was all saying the Chiefs, like if Mahomes
I think people
goes,
respect the Bills enough to say, hey, even with everything full strength and no injury questions, they're good enough to win this game. I think maybe because of the last 2 weeks not looking as good, maybe that's the reason that people aren't as high on the Bills' chances to win this game. And that's kind of why I'm not too. But doesn't mean they can't. If they take it up another level and put out that type of performance that they put, throughout some of the year, at the end of the year, yeah, it's game on, and it's definitely a game they could win. So
I'm not a huge fan of the whole, like, we're going to play this shell defense, we're going to sit back. I've never, well, I can't say never. I've very rarely seen a defense go out and have to play almost passive and be successful. Go out and be who you are and just believe that you're as good, like what you put out in the field is good enough, because to sit back and play that style almost is in some ways conceding to the other team that you don't think you can compete on that side of the ball. And I just don't like that.
That's true, Dan. But to the point we've all made about limiting the possessions, part of limiting possessions is keeping the ball on offense, but it's also not letting quick scores happen on defense. So
True.
if you look at and I'm with you, I don't like it either. It's, as a fan of the team, it's so frustrating watching your team. We talk about this, watching your team play a bend but don't break style. It just looks like they're a terrible defense when ultimately there is a plan to it. And if you play it the right way, it is the way to play it. But if you watch the game last week, the Browns, they moved the ball patiently on the Browns the whole game. But you looked up at the end of the second half and it was like, if they wouldn't have fumbled the ball in the end zone, it would have been a 6-point game. And it looked like the Chiefs were dominating because how easy they moved the ball. But the Browns limited possessions, not because they held the ball that much, but because it took the Chiefs 6 and 7 minutes to score. So if the Bills play that game, we just sat here and talked about how we don't want it to be, if you're the Bills, you don't want to get into a shootout. Well, if you play that shell defense and let's say you hold them to a couple field goals and a couple touchdowns in the first half even, or maybe 1 touchdown, 2 field goals, and you get off the field on 1 and you've only given up 4 drives. At the end of the day, you get with 13 points and your offense, whatever they do, whether the offense scores a bunch or a little, you're going to be in the game somehow. So I think there's something to be said for playing that shell, especially against the Chiefs, about maybe being the right way to play it.
I just don't know with like the Chiefs, their efficiency in the red zone is ridiculous. Like you can't guard every single person they put out there.
See, Dan,
they're going to score touchdowns if they get down there.
That's where you're wrong, is they have one of the worst percentages in the red zone. The way they score, and I was just going to say this, we talk about keeping him off the field and limiting the quick scores. Their stats in the red zone are actually pretty bad because a lot of their scores come from outside the red zone because they're a big hitting offense. So if you play the defense that Buffalo played against the Ravens, where they did the same thing, they were letting Lamar move the ball down the field, and then literally on 4 possessions in the red zone, the Ravens came away with 3 points. Now, I get some of those were off of terribly missed field goals by Justin Tucker, and one of them was the interception pick 6 that pretty much sealed the game. But if they play that similar defense and let them kind of slowly move the ball without letting Tyreek Hill kind of take them off the top and hitting like those 40 to 50-yard touchdown passes, that actually might benefit them to hold them to field goals. Because I mean, I know Andy Reid's a little bit of a gambler, but if you can get them in the red zone and know that you're going to compress that field, I think that's one of the other ways that you can really beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, part of their percentage, I don't know this, but I'd be interested to know how many red zone opportunities they've had.
It's limited, it's limited, right, and that's why their numbers are low.
Score on big play, their numbers might be low because they don't have a lot of opportunities.
Which makes it
Kansas
one of the ways
City
you would do
ranks
it.
15th right now, according to teamrankings.com. So they're 59.4%. So, yeah.
So we'll see what happens. What style of Buffalo? I'm really more interested in this game to see what style Buffalo comes out with. We know what the Chiefs are. We know what they're going to do. The Chiefs might start, trying to run the ball heavy, control the clock, but at the end of the day, they run on Mahomes' arm. I'm really interested to see what the Bills do to counter both on defense and how their offense looks, because we just haven't been able to predict. And I know me and Trav have had some side conversations. We haven't been able to predict the Bills' offense and the style that they have tried to play in the postseason so far.
I have a prop bet. I'd love to hear Trav's opinion on. Trav, over under Josh Allen with 2 picks today. You taking the over or the under?
I take the under.
Okay. I feel like this is one of those games where we're talking about the offenses and the Chiefs defense is going to be listen, like we're here.
I like the point you made, because one last point I'll make is I've been saying it all year. This Chiefs defense is so improved from the previous years. I think Spagnuolo's really done a good job since he's gotten there, making them a little bit better each year. They're underrated. The reason I don't say 2 picks is because I don't think they're like a dominant defense that forces a ton of turnovers. The only real ball hawk they have is Matthew. So, if the Honey Badger, maybe he can get 1, but I don't think they get 2 on him. Definitely don't go over the 2. If anything, I would push, but I'll go under on that. But that doesn't mean I don't respect the Chiefs defense. I think the Chiefs defense will do enough today. If it does become a shootout, or even if it doesn't, it becomes a more ball control game. If you look at the first game, they played at ball control, which could scare you. But if your defense is getting stops, you don't need to score a ton of points anyway. On limited possessions, especially, it's less stops you have to get. I think that Chiefs defense will do enough, and they're the reason to me that I think overall the Chiefs are a better team this year than they were last year.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I will close by saying that if you tell me it's a shootout and it does end up being like a 35 or like 38-35, 42, something like that, then yeah, I'll take the over, or at least the push on the 2 picks.
I really hope the Bills put forward. I hope the Bills put forward, I hope it's a good game. I hope it's not like one team just plays totally crappy, but I hope it's like both teams playing at high level.
I agree, and
awesome.
And I hope stylistically, I hope it's not like their first meeting where it was they let him run the ball and it's 26-17. I hope that both teams play aggressive and that both quarterbacks. This is what we want. This is the new era of the young quarterbacks that are going to dominate the league for the next Well, that's what everyone tells me about Josh Allen.
Right.
I like him now more than I did, but I'm still waiting to see if he can do it year after year. We know Mahomes is going to do it,
And
but I want to see these two kids throw it up and down the field, a game in the 40s and 30s. Not what we saw week 6, but I understand they're going to do what they think they can to win. So.
As we switch to the NFC, I just wanted to say, well, hats off to Sean McDermott for really turning that program around and kind of getting them on the right track. He seems to be doing a stellar job, and they're probably going to be a competitive team for years to come. But switching over to the NFC game, that is the game that starts in about 40 minutes. And just to kind of give you guys a synopsis, I know we talked a little about some injuries that are going to be plaguing the game in Green Bay is Antonio Brown will not be playing with a knee. So he won't be playing. And then also breaking as of 30 minutes ago, right before we jumped on here, Antoine Winfield Jr. will not be playing, and that's a huge loss for the Tampa's defense. So I might have to possibly switch up on my pick from what the graphic is based on hearing that, because I think that impacts their performance on defense on a team that has had their games where they've thrown up duds and let a lot of points be scored from the likes of a Drew Brees offense. And
yeah, that injury is important. I saw it too about 20 minutes ago that he was out, but I also think they were leaning towards.
Yeah, they knew it was possible.
He was going to be out. So,
I don't know what happened to him last game though.
Yeah, I also hear that they're not expected to change their strategy. They're planning on blitzing and blitzing hard like they did in the first game, which is how they dominated it. Another week 6 matchup we talked about. So this injury kind of morphs into how I'm looking at things, and I think is the key to the game, because the reason when they played back in week 6, the reason that the Bucs did what they did and stomped all over them, I mean, it looked like 38-10. You would think, defense. They played great defense, but also great offense. Well, they were down 10-0 early. Chiefs, Packers jump out to the big lead, and then 2 pick sixes totally changed the game. And from then on, the defensive line and the pressure that they put on the Packers was the reason and the basically the sole reason that this game went the way it was. So that was when the Bucs defense was kind of playing well. They dominated the game defensively. Obviously, the Packers are playing better on offense, and the Bucs defense was not what it was in the first half, what it turned into be in the second half. So they're story of two halves for them, and what they're defensively. Their offense kind of stayed what it was. It was pretty good all year. It had some ups and downs with Styles, I think, with Arians and stuff. But I'm looking at, all right, have the Packers figured that out? Can we trust the Packers as a whole, and have the Packers figured out that issue, how we're going to block them up front? I think they have, because for 2 reasons. I think their offensive line and their offense is just playing better. And I think the drop-off we've seen in the Bucs defense, to me, I'm not looking at and thinking that they're going to go in and do anything close to what they did in week 6 with that defensive performance. Add in Antoine Winfield's out, and I'm thinking, okay, I feel a lot more confident about the Packers being able to control the ball offensively. They actually play the slowest pace of anybody in terms of the amount of time in between each play. They pretty much run the clock down on a regular basis. So I would think they can ball control it, run the ball, and have success enough, protect their defense that way, and win the game that way. But I do think the key is that side of the ball. On the other side, I think the Packers, they're just okay on defense, and the Bucs are pretty good on offense. I think I kind of feel like I know what's going to happen. I will say on one part of that side of the ball that I do think is key for the Bucs to have a chance, I think they're going to have to run the ball. I think that's where you're going to have success moving the ball, not just from a ball control standpoint, but from the standpoint of, I don't think Brady's going to, especially with AB out, I don't think Brady's going to back up and throw the ball 40 times and they're going to have success moving the ball. I don't think that's what he's built to do anymore. Yep. I don't think that's what this offense is built to do. They're a chunk play offense. We talk about it because that's what Arians wants them to be. I know Brady's had a little more his way and a little more control and getting the short game in there some, but at the end of the day, they want to move the ball down the field with Arians. So they've got to run that ball. And the way
they ran it really well last week.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't great, but given the Saints are a really good run defense, it was a pretty good performance from Fournette. Danny, you mentioned how much you like seeing Fournette play in the last couple weeks and what he's kind of turned back into his old self. So if they can do that and run the ball, we know this Packers front can be soft and it can be had. So if they can do that, keep Rodgers off the field and move the ball consistently that way, that's just deflating when you can run the ball on the team anyway. That's the chance I think they have to really beat the Packers.
I thought Ronald Jones looked really good. I mean, I think he might even
he
run.
Just has that.
I'm trying to see.
They need to use them both.
So Fournette carried 17 for 63 yards, and Ronald Jones carried 13 for 62 yards. So they had a combined 125 yards between the two of them. So having a dual, workforce basically by running backs is nice because it kind of gives you that change of pace. Even though they're kind of both the bigger, kind of stockier backs that kind of power through. They're not like shifty small guys, but they definitely need to run the ball, and I think that they will. But because especially since you don't really know without Antonio Brown what you're going to get, because they're going to put all the resources on Mike Evans. I'm interested to see if Gronk has impact this game. because he's kind of been quiet a little bit in the playoffs thus far, and even throughout the whole season, he's kind of been quiet. So I'm interested to see with Antonio Brown out if he has an impact. And then what are the hands going to do for Chris Godwin? He's not looked great in the hands department the last 2 games. I mean, if we're being honest, he really hasn't. And he's one of
No,
their
you're
better
right.
receivers. He was the guy that led their team last year before Brady came.
Mm-hmm.
But they did say he has 5 touchdowns in the last 5 games, so he has that going for him. But I don't know. I feel like there's always that part of me in the back of my head that we've talked about where like, are the Packers going to throw a dud? Is today the day they throw a dud? And that's what kind of feared me into my pick, which we'll talk about later. Obviously, you can tell that I probably picked the Bucks, but that and just the fear of Tom Brady that I live with for the last 20 years of just knowing that, whenever you think, oh, he's not going to win this one, finds a way to win. And I still don't think the Bucks are that great of a team. It still shocks me that they've made it to the NFC Championship. But like we all said, the NFC has been kind of weak this year. So really, it was a 6 to 7 team race going into the playoffs.
Yeah, one of the things I want to say is Tampa Bay's draw, like, really was pretty nice. If we really look at it now, like with hindsight, like getting Washington, and it was almost like, backdoor NFC East champs get in, Bucks get them the first round. Then the Drew Brees, who had, it came out, he had torn rotator cuff he was playing with all year. He had some injuries. Mike Thomas had a bunch of injuries that he was dealing with. So like a Saints team that was just doing whatever it could kind of for Breeze's last ride. So this is the game right here where if Tom Brady's going to get to the Super Bowl again, I think he needs to come up big. I think he needs to be efficient. Obviously he can't make Chris Godwin catch the ball, but he's got to lead this team on the offensive side. I think for the position where Antonio Brown would be, I don't see this big significant drop off. Yes, Antonio Brown's a big name, but I can see 2 guys, Scotty Miller and
He's going to score a touchdown today.
Scotty Miller might actually, if I was Bruce Arians, I would move Godwin outside and put Scotty Miller in the slot in the Edelman role for Tom Brady. But
Ms. Welker.
Yeah. But that's me. But there's also this kid, Tyler Johnson. They mentioned him in the last game. He had a big catch, and they really like him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him jump in there, and they seem to really like him. Tom Brady really likes him. So I'm excited for this game. I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today. This is like Brady's last QB he has to overcome, right? In his career, he's beaten all the best QBs. He's beaten Roethlisberger. He's beaten
Peyton.
He beat like the Flacco's. He beat the Mannings. He beat Mahomes in the AFC Championship game. Like he beat Drew Brees last week. Like of all the big names that that have been in the league during his period of dominance as a quarterback, this is probably like the last one that he would really have to say, like, I beat him.
He will forever be haunted by the NFC East, though, with Eli and Foles.
Foles.
You said the Mannings, and I'm like, he beat one Manning a few times. He didn't beat the other one.
He did lose. He did lose Eli, but
Eli doesn't count. He was garbage anyway.
Exactly. That's why I can't even put him on the list. Like, yeah, he had. So I'm excited, but I'm really excited for the first game. I think that I don't see it being this high octane type thing. And I think the game comes down to red zone efficiency, which we could say for every game. I think both offenses are probably going to move the ball on these middle of the road defenses, so to speak. So whoever can score touchdowns and not kick field goals,
it'll be chilly.
Wins the game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, Dan. The red zone being key, and also what you think the style will be, because of one of the things I mentioned, the way the Packers play a slow pace, and then the way the Packers defense lends itself to getting the ball moved on. I do think it's going to be longer drives, limited possessions. The offenses will move the ball up and down, but it won't turn into this shootout where it's a lot of points, because it'll be slower paced offense, and it will come down to that red zone. I think could be key. I'm interested in you. What do you think, Dan? What do you think of? You've been on this Bucks train, kind of all year. I'm not going to ask for your pick, but what do you think of the Bucks' ability? Do you think they're going to? I mean, I guess you kind of answered with the last one, but I mean, do you really think with ease they're going to move the ball on this Packer defense most of the game?
Yeah, I think they can. And again, it's going to have to be like high efficiency type of a game today. Like they're going to have to run the ball well, and that means like when they run the ball, they need to get 4 or 5 yards on.
You think they'll commit to running the ball a lot?
I feel like they really.
I think because of last week, they might. And I think they
Yeah.
kind of will because of what they did last week.
It's
If
going to be pretty
Ronald's
cold
good-
too, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You don't like to throw
Brady
the ball
can
as
throw
much
the
when
ball
it's
in the
cold.
cold.
Of course he can,
Yeah,
but it's
he
like
can.
receivers. Can his receivers catch everything? It's cold, you know. Like we know
Yeah, I
Rodgers
don't
can
think
throw in the
that's a
cold
big deal.
too.
I don't think
Put a
that's
little
that big of a
extra-
We'll see.
Throw a little
It was a
extra stick
deal in
on Godwin's
Pittsburgh. That's why I
balls.
say it. It was a big deal in Pittsburgh.
But yeah, I do think that they can move the ball. I think they can run the ball. I think Gronk might have a bigger game than he's had all year, maybe come up in a big spot. Cameron Brate's a pretty decent backup for a tight end. You know what I mean? He's made plays. So
Yeah.
everybody on their team contributes. So it would be hard for me as a defense to just be like, I'm just going to focus on Mike Evans or just focus on this. He uses everybody. So
So
I think they're going to move the ball and they're going to score points.
So it sounds like, we kind of all have this thought of like, it boils down to the matchup of Rodgers versus that Bucks defense and if they can score enough points to win that game. So let's just say Brady and the Bucks score 24 points. Does Rodgers and his offense have enough to put up 27 to win that game? Like do you envision them scoring
Yeah,
27
certainly.
points to win that game?
I would expect them to score 27. Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna come down to red zone, like we said, and like if the Packers don't turn the ball over, they'll probably win the game. If the Bucks can somehow find a way to turn them over once or twice, could be the difference in the game. So
Well, it'll be interesting to see. But we have come to the part in our show where we will pull our picks up for you guys to see for the championship weeks. And I guess we'll just kind of go down the list here as we transition to the picks. So obviously, the first game of the day is Packers-Bucks. Aggie went with Green Bay winning that game. I'm waiting to hear if he's got any supporting evidence that he wants to throw in a little one-liner possibly on why he picked Green Bay. But and then we'll move over to Danny. You got the Bucks, so give us just a quick bit on why you picked the Bucks.
first of all, I picked the Bucks at the beginning of the year to be Super Bowl champ. So I would be going against myself if I said otherwise. There's just something about TB12 and big moments. He hasn't lost very often, so I'm going to play the percentages and say that somehow, some way, maybe the football just has a little less air today. I don't know, but he's gonna bring it home for the Bucks and take him. He's going to be the first team to play in their home stadium today, baby.
Yeah. First off, Dan, your love and affection for Tom Brady, I think, is even more than love and affection I have for Jim Nantz. So let's just put that out there right now. You got a lot of love for Tom, but yeah, I got the Packers in this game. I got the Packers winning this game. I think I don't trust the Packers, so I'm not so confident.
I'm so shocked, man.
If the Packers come out and do it, and it's more about I have less faith in the Bucks. The NFC, it's like, all right, who wants to win it? I just don't think any team is that great. I think the AFC's been better. We've talked about that, but I think the Packers and this offense have gotten it together, and the Bucks defense is trending the wrong direction the back half of the year. The Packers offense is trending the right direction, so I think it'll be a different game than the way they played the first time. I got more trust in the Packers to get it done and what they have. But if they lay an egg, I'm not going to be totally surprised. I said it early in the year that I don't trust them. So I have to pick somebody. I'll pick the Packers because I'll assume they don't come and lay an egg, and as long as they come out and play solid, I think they're the better team and they win.
All right. Yep. I went back and forth when I initially was making this graphic. I was like, okay, like, come on, let's go Green Bay. Like you're gonna knock him off. Like I hate Brady, can't stand him. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, man, every time I get my hopes up that somebody's gonna beat Brady, he finds a way to win it. Whether it's the other team plays poorly and blows it, or D Ford is offsides and blows it. I don't know. Like no matter what it is, there's always something that happens. And so I ended up going with the Bucks. And I actually had a question for you, Dan, since we will talk about this later. Do you still, in your heart of hearts, believe that Brady would beat Mahomes at full capacity in the Super Bowl?
I think they have a chance. I think
you said you picked the Bucks to win the Super Bowl, right, over the Chiefs at the beginning.
Yeah. I think that they have a chance, and I know that the Bucks kind of have this defense that can give up some yards and do this, but I think that's the MO of a younger defense. And last week they turned the Saints over a couple of times. They forced turnovers in that game. Now I know you guys look at it as the Saints turned the ball over, but I look at it as the Bucks forced turnovers against the Saints. So I think they have the opportunity to do it. I could definitely see them having a couple weeks to get ready for that game coming out, and I wouldn't bet my life savings or anything on it, but I would give Tom Brady a chance to beat and the Bucks a greater chance than like maybe the Bills today. I think that
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I was saying that because I feel like if it was me, I would feel stronger conviction that the Packers would have a better shot from a personnel standpoint and the stylistic play to beat the Chiefs than the Bucks if they were to make it there.
I just don't trust like I as much as like I feel Trav's torment in this, right? Like really he doesn't like either team. He thinks both of them have flaws and so like but I would be more worried about Rodgers showing up to the Super Bowl and laying an egg than I would Brady. I could see the Bucks showing up and they would at least put up a fight and they would at least it would at least look like they had a shot in the game. Whereas I could see the Packers showing up and I've seen Rodgers in the playoffs go out there and just look very inefficient, like not moving the ball, punting the ball a lot, just very ineffective. So maybe I have a little something about like Rodgers and Mike McCarthy and that marriage and how bad they looked for so many years, but we've also seen it at different times with LaFleur as well. So
with LaFleur, what's been alarming is the total dud. We talk about the total duds they've laid in against some of the better teams when it's like, oh, look at the Packers. And then it's like, what? So
yeah.
That's been their thing, not inconsistent play or a consistent bad play like it was with McCarthy at the end.
Right.
Well, we will see what happens in that game that kicks off in about 25 minutes. So moving over to the AFC in the later game, we've got Aggie picking the Chiefs. We've got Dan, you're picking the Chiefs as well. Your reasoning for that?
Yeah, we kind of talked about it. I don't think the Bills play the type of offense that you need to be able to play to limit possessions. I think that the Chiefs have had that game last week was a good game for them, kind of coming off the bye, a little bit of a wake-up call for them. The Browns were in that game, minus the turnover at the end of the half.
That kicks off in
about
25 minutes.
I think that they know what teams are going to try to do. And I think they'll be a lot better. I think they were maybe a little bit rusty last week, and obviously the Mahomes injury didn't help. So yeah, I actually look for them to be better this week than they were last week. And so, yeah, I don't see the Bills being able to do enough in this game. I think Josh Allen is going to have 2 or more turnovers, not interceptions, but I see him fumbling the ball, throwing a pick. I think he's going to have a rough game today.
Yeah, I don't know that I see Josh Allen having a rough game. I definitely, give me the Chiefs in this one. I don't know how. I don't know what score, and I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm just gonna say they can do it. It's not because I don't think the Bills are capable. It's funny, Dan. You said you thought the Chiefs came out looking rusty. I thought the Chiefs came out looking hot. They came out and threw the ball right down the field, took what the defense gave them, and went up 13-0. It would have been 14-0 not for the extra point. And then after that, the Mahomes injury, I felt like kind of slowed them down. And then when Mahomes went out, then it was like a total game on. So I thought they looked good. And I'm kind of basing it on like, all right, the way Mahomes looked when he came out, if he looks like that, and then also the main reason I'm not willing to take the plunge on the Bills, I think they have the horses to get it done. But the way they've looked in the playoffs, particularly last week on offense and a little bit in the first half against the Colts, I don't have confidence in their offense. Not that I think Josh Allen's going to struggle in the way you do. I don't have confidence that they're going to move the ball well enough and do the things they need to do. And then given that, the way type of style of offense they play that gave them and went up against the Chiefs and that not being the greatest style to beat the Chiefs, I'm confident the Chiefs will find a way to get it done. Not, look, if the Bills come out and sling it around like they were at times this year, most of the year, and hit those plays more efficiently and more consistently, yeah, it's game on. And they definitely have the team to get it done, to go into Arrowhead even and get it done. They haven't impressed me enough in the last 2 weeks to pick them.
Yep. So I'm the lone show person to pick the Bills, and I'm picking. All right, I'm just gonna say this. I told Dan this earlier. My 2 picks are not picks out of what I desire. My picks are picks out of fear. I fear.
Your picks are so annoying. You pick teams basically. It's like I'm gonna pick a team that I really don't want to win, man, because I'm so paranoid and I hate it. Like, dude, pick who you think's gonna win. Stop worrying about your freaking.
And the reason behind
it's so
it.
Annoying to listen to you tell why you pick.
The reason behind it is, well, when it happens, you'll be wrong and I'll be right. The reason why is that the Bills. I just think that one bad hit. One bad hit on Mahomes or one
he's so
bad
mental.
land on that
He's
ankle,
so mental, dude.
I just feel like there's a possibility that could happen, and I don't know. I have that thought that maybe Mahomes might not play the whole game, and I hope he does.
Ready,
I want to see Chiefs Packers. That's what I want, but I picked off of based of like gut feeling of like, hey, I just have a feeling that Bills are gonna have a good game. They're due for a good game.
You picked off a straight paranoia.
Chiefs are due for a bad game. No, I bet off of paranoia. I don't pick off paranoia. I bet off paranoia.
Tom Brady has freaking beaten your Steelers into submission to the point where you're like, I'm scared of you, Tom, and I'm gonna pick you. but it's actually like reverse psychology because what you're thinking is if I pick him,
Yeah.
he's gonna lose.
Yeah,
and then,
exactly. And he really thinks that it's like, I'll pick him, and then at least I can say I was right. If we lose and I get what I didn't want, at least I can say I was right. It's like, is that really some consolation to you?
So our one of our audience members actually said that none of us have the right Super Bowl picks, and he believes it's going to be. Wait,
how can none of us have it?
He says it's going to be. He thinks it's Green Bay Buffalo. Yep. So we'll see.
This listener that you're speaking of?
This is one Puddin Crawford who
put in
who believes that. So what do you have to say, Dan? Let him know he's listening right now. Got the
But then I don't think that's. I mean, I think it could happen. Obviously, anything could happen. These 4 teams have earned the right to be here, but I think that we're more than justified in our picks. Maybe minus Juddy, but the rest of us have some legitimate.
Hey, someone asked Puddin. What does he think? What's he think of that 3.5 spread there for the for the Pack? I was really thinking about jumping on the Packers, and I still might. There's still time to jump on the Packers at plus 3.5 because I'm starting to. The more the week goes on, I'm starting to get a little more confidence in the Packers being able to take this game. And at 3.5, I like it. And then the three with the Chiefs, I actually really like. So I'm thinking about maybe jumping on both of those for a little bit of something there at the at -3 for or +3 for the Chiefs. Or no, -3 for the Chiefs and -3.
You can do that. You can do that on FanDuel now, Trav. Hold on. You can do that on FanDuel now, Trav. It's legal in Virginia on FanDuel. So
awesome. Hey, I have a graphic for Puddin about why he should maybe think about listening to my picks.
He can't see it because he's not on Facebook. You didn't give me the graphic to share.
Hold on 1 second here. I'm gonna put it up for our Facebook viewers here.
While you're doing that, Dan, hold on. While you're getting that ready, I want to share that Aggie actually had some input on his picks. He said that he thinks the Packers are finally for real, but they could definitely prove him wrong. And then he said he thinks that the Chiefs just have too much
fear-based explanation.
Exactly. Yeah, I got my fear-based picks from Aggie this week. But he also said he thinks the Chiefs just have too much talent for Buffalo to overcome.
All right. Well, Aggie, thank you for giving your 2 cents. We appreciate it. We miss you, dude. Hope you're feeling better. Here's the graphic for Puddin. We'll get this up somehow, some way to you. In fact, you know what? Just for my cousins here, I'm going to put it up for them so they can see.
Let me guess. You're bringing back the old initial picks.
Let's look at the preseason picks.
Nobody cares, Dan. All right, guys. Thanks for joining our show. It was nice having you.
Look who still has teams ready to win the Super Bowl here. Me and Aggie are the only ones with a chance. He picked the Chiefs. I picked the Bucks. Trav, you had the Chiefs there, but you didn't pick them. All y'all's teams are out. You need to listen to what's going on right here. Puddin. Danny knows what's up. Chiefs, Bucks in the Super Bowl, baby. That's what's going to happen.
Just a side note, that graphic had me having 6 out of the correct 8 divisional picks and out of anybody. So, but
hey, good job. You probably picked all those teams. You were probably like,
out of fear,
I'm going to pick them.
I'm afraid of Russell Wilson.
The Steelers will win this game.
Told you, I don't pick out of fear. I bet out of fear.
No, that's funny, man.
But yeah, that pretty much does it for us. Thanks for joining us. We had a lot of fun with you guys today. We'll be back on Tuesday at our normal time around 9:15 to talk about the outcomes of these games, and we'll see who was right and who was wrong, and we'll dive into it and kind of get a little bit of preface into the Super Bowl that we'll be looking at. Should be some good games, like we've said before. Hopefully we don't have any duds. Hopefully we don't have any blowouts. It's championship weekend, so you want to see good games. You want to see last possession games, hopefully. But yeah, thanks for joining us. And again, follow us and find us on Spotify, Apple, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And also you can find us on our website too on www.strictlysportspodcast.com, where Dan will always keep those shows up to date.
Big update coming, guys. At least 4 shows getting downloaded this week.
So yeah, thanks for joining us, and thanks for stopping by. See you guys on Tuesday.